everybody, and welcome to Lego Indiana Jones, the original adventures from 2008. This is one of the Lego games that I played in my childhood, and I wanted to return to it today and play through a little bit of it with you. This game has the first 3 Indiana Jones movies. And of course, you don't really need to watch past those first 3 movies. Although, to be fair, I haven't seen The Dial of Destiny, the newest one. But Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was pretty mediocre. So, let's play through the first couple of levels of the Temple of Doom, Shanghai 1935. And here we have the character Willie. Of course, she's singing Anything Goes at this part of the movie. Anything Goes. The classic number by Cole Porter. Cole Porter, who was a phenomenal musician and lyricist in the 20th century. And at the beginning of Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones is poisoned and has to recover the antidote. So that's what we're doing here. And it has been a very long time since I've played this game. So pardon me for sort of stumbling around trying to figure things out here. I also, today, inspired by Lucid Blues ASMR, who I've talked about on this channel before and who I highly recommend you check out. I have some coffee this morning. It's very delicious. He's done some coffee making videos on his ASMR channel, so I don't have a whole espresso setup and all that, but I wanted to record this video with a little cup of joe at my side. That's so good. I am a huge coffee lover, and I wouldn't say I'm a coffee snob. I do, I don't know. As long as the coffee is strong, I don't really mind if it's low quality or even burnt or whatever. If it's a little, if it's not great coffee, I just mask it with some cream. That's kind of my preferred way of taking my coffee, with just a little half and half in it. Although, if the coffee is high quality, a good roast and, prepared well, then I do love taking it black, but I usually only do that if the coffee is tasty enough that I think it's worth sort of appreciating its flavor unchanged by cream. I don't like sweet coffee, so I don't ever get things with, syrups or sugar. I just don't have much of a sweet tooth in general. But anyway, this section here, I'm trying to collect 4 gems that I have to throw at these little goons up here, so that they will eventually toss me the antidote, so I can, I'm really having trouble getting this gem to this last guy here. So you can get the antidote and save Indy. Also, I turned off the music in this, hoping that I could maybe use some of the game audio without getting a copyright strike. However, I don't think I'm going to be using this audio because it sounds really bad. It's mostly just silent, and then every once in a while there's this really piercing shriek from one of the dancers running around the area. I don't know if some of the later sections will be more appropriate, but as it stands now, I'm not sure there's going to be game audio in this video. And here we meet our other hero of Temple of Doom. We have Indiana Jones, Willie, and here is Short Round. Short Round. Who is, I don't know, some people, this movie is kind of seen as the worst of the trilogy. And to an extent, I understand why. But some people really don't like Short Round. I actually find him pretty great. He does, shout a lot, but I don't know, I think he's really funny and charming and just adorable. And he's got a great heart and is just a sort of, Temple of Doom is kind of a dark film thematically. And I find that Short Round provides sort of a heart of positivity to the movie. Even as, Indiana Jones is being corrupted and tortured and all this stuff, Short Round is a constant beacon of light in the story. So, I actually quite like him. And of course, he's portrayed by the wonderful, charming, delightful Jonathan Kwan, or Ke Huy Quan. I don't know. I know he uses both names. I'm not sure if Jonathan is like his film and stage name that he adopted to work in America, or if it's just another name that he uses. I don't know, but yeah, Temple of Doom would not be the film it is without Jonathan Kwan. And Jonathan Kwan, if you've been paying attention to, the film industry, I guess, or film culture for the last few years, he kind of came back from a long acting hiatus. Obviously, he did this movie. He was in The Goonies. He was in a handful of other stuff as a kid. But he stopped acting for a while. And then in the 2020s, he came back. And I think he did a few things, but he really exploded back into the public consciousness was from 2022. And he did a great job in the movie, and was sort of beloved again after doing that role. He won a bunch of awards. The movie won. I mean, I think the movie is like the most awarded film in history, if I'm not mistaken. But Jonathan Kwan won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. It was a really good movie. I quite enjoyed it. It had some other great actors. It has Michelle Yeoh, who was, she's had a long career. She was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. She was in a James Bond movie. And then she kind of broke out again in 2018, I think, was when Crazy Rich Asians came out, and she was in that. She's great. I really enjoy her work. She was in Wicked recently. Who else was in that movie? Everything Everywhere All at Once. James Hong, of course, who is just an institution. That incredibly distinctive voice of his. He's done endless movies, film, animated stuff. If you don't know him by name, you certainly know his voice. He was in Mulan as that kind of advisor guy with the long mustache. And he was the grandfather in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Jamie Lee Curtis was also in that movie. She's one of my favorite actors. I just think she's incredible. Obviously, she had her breakout role in Halloween when she was quite young. I believe, she's one of the scream queens, as they say, those horror movie girls that, would get chased around by the killer and do lots of screaming and stuff. Another sip of coffee. But Jamie Lee Curtis is, I think, one of the best actors working today. She's just incredible. She was in, if you haven't seen The King of Comedy, which is a movie, wait. No. Hold on, what am I thinking of? She plays, I think I'm thinking of Trading Places. Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. That 80s comedy about sort of swapping the positions of a homeless man and a rich stockbroker. But I think that's the movie. Jamie Lee Curtis plays a prostitute who Dan Aykroyd's character meets after he sort of has everything taken from him. And she plays that part phenomenally. So much humanity and strength and just interesting. She's a very interesting character. Brings some much needed sort of grounding and humanity to that movie. Yeah, she's amazing. Obviously, Knives Out, she was great in that. In her, her modern career era is wonderful. I don't know if you've watched the show The Bear, but there's an incredible episode where Jamie Lee plays the mother of this family, and it is something else. It's absolutely incredible. But anyway, here I am talking about movies and actors and stuff. So here we are at the airfield, trying to repair this plane. And, okay, Indy has to start these propellers with his whip. Of course, in the movie, they're fleeing Shanghai, and they get on this plane, but it turns out that it's owned by the villain. And, yep, there's his face. And the villain tells the pilots to kill the people inside, so they're in the plane, and the pilots just jump out with their parachutes. How will our heroes survive this one? Let's see. We're crashing. So they take this big inflatable raft, and they jump out the door, and down they go. Oh, 3% shy of true adventurer. What a shame, what a shame. I found, I had some progress in this game still. It couldn't be the old file I used as a kid, but clearly I came back to it at some point and played a little bit, because I had a handful of studs and some characters unlocked and stuff in this. So our heroes now find themselves brought to this village where they learn that some thuggy cultists have kidnapped their children and taken the sacred stones at the heart of their village. So now they go off to Pankot Palace to investigate. And this game, Lego Indiana Jones, formed the three main Lego games that I played as a kid. I played Lego Star Wars, the first one, the second one, and then the follow-up that combined them. And then I played this one, and I played Lego Batman. And the Lego games were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed them as a kid, and I think they're still pretty charming. They're not, I'm not rushing to play these games these days, just because, for time, and they're sort of kids' games, but it's fun to go back and just explore them again. Of course, in the movies, there's a whole sequence with elephants carrying the group through the jungle. And there's lots of animal-based comedy, as Willie in particular is just her shrieking and her screaming all the time. And I don't know, I mean, I get it. Like, I guess it was maybe a little much, a little annoying sometimes, but I thought it worked. Like, it was just her character, her personality, and I definitely think this movie is better than people give it credit for. It's not as good as The Last Crusade, certainly, or Raiders of the Lost Ark. But I think it's pretty good. And you know, what I've always found funny about the Lego games. I don't think I mean, I know they're not doing it still, because, well, actually, I don't know. I mean, I haven't played the new Lego Star Wars or whatever, but back in the day, these games would... How do I grab this thing? Back in the day, it was funny that, like, the superpower of women was that they could jump really high. All the, you know, you have different characters in these games that have different abilities. You've got, you know, bazooka troopers that can blow up metal things. You've got engineers that can use their wrench on stuff. You've got, you know, people with certain hats or masks that can open certain doors, whatever it might be. And then the superpower of women is that they're just like D1 basketball players, like just launching into the air with a 6-foot vertical. I always thought that was kind of funny. That for some reason was like, they linked it to gender. I just thought it was hilarious, you know. Yeah, famously, women are known for their ability to just launch themselves into the air twice the height of an average man. But yeah, just one of the little idiosyncrasies of these games. I remember in Lego Star Wars, that high jumping ability was given to Jar Jar Binks, so I guess in a galaxy far, far away, your athletic ability is not determined by your you know, your gender. I'm totally stumped here. But oh yeah, something I guess I should say. You see that big pit of snakes? That's, you know, that's deadly to any character to fall in. But there are certain fears. Characters have like phobias in this, basically. And so, for instance, Indiana Jones is afraid of snakes, and Willie is afraid of spiders. And so, if you approach that type of animal in the environment, that character will sort of cower and be unable to do anything besides move around very slowly. There we go, I finally figured out that you just have to walk into that thing to grab onto it. Kept on thinking it was like an interact button or something that I had to press. But here we go, we can finally progress. So I will have myself another sip of coffee. Most of the time, I just like, you know, my usual order at a coffee shop is just their drip coffee, their brewed coffee. Because, I mean, I delicious. It's also, the cheapest option. But occasionally, if I do want an espresso drink, which I usually save for like special occasions or whatever, my go-to is a cappuccino. A cappuccino. Cappuccino. I wouldn't turn down any sort of proportion, right? All those drinks, the macchiatos, flat white, latte, whatever it is, breve, if it's got espresso and dairy in it, I'm gonna enjoy it. All those different kinds of drinks, to me, they're very similar fundamentally, right? They're all just coffee and some preparation of milk. But in terms of coffee flavorings, I know I said I don't like sugary stuff. I don't tend to like a lot of flavor in my coffee. That's a silly way of putting it. I like the flavor of coffee, and so when I have coffee, I tend to like to enjoy that flavor without too much else going on. But if I am going to get some flavor in my coffee, part of the issue is that it usually comes in syrups, and so those tend to be very sweet. And so as I said, I'm not big on the sweets, but one coffee I've had recently that was so good was a licorice coffee. It was a licorice latte. I love licorice. Like real black licorice, I think is so good. And this coffee shop was selling a licorice latte, so I gave it a shot, and it was phenomenal. Again, as I said, I don't really order it. I've only ordered it maybe 2 times, just because, unfortunately, it's very, very sweet, and so I don't really like to power through that sugariness. But the flavor was so good. The licorice flavor was so strong. I'm not really like a caramel guy. I'm not really a big mocha guy. I like to have coffee and a piece of dark chocolate separately. I don't ever get mochas, I don't ever get chocolate directly in my coffee. But I love to switch back and forth between the two. I love to have a piece of chocolate with my coffee. That's just so good. I really love dark chocolate. I go to Trader Joe's and just buy a stack of their dark chocolate bars. Just keep that in my pantry for whenever I have a need for a chocolate fix. Which turns out to be, pretty much every day. If it's in the house, I usually around 9 a.m. or something, I'm like, this would be a great time for a piece of chocolate. But, yeah, here we are at Pankot Palace, trying to get in. Gotta bring an elephant over to that pressure plate there. So these movies, created by George Lucas, the story, they had a couple different writers, and Steven Spielberg directed them. And actually, he ended up marrying the actress who played Willie, whose name I can't remember, but they ended up getting married after meeting on this film. Just kind of fun. Have some more coffee. While we watch this cutscene play, the famous banquet scene. Monkey brains, monkey brains. I don't think that's accurate to the movie. Aren't the monkey brains served chilled in that? But in this they were steaming, they were piping hot. That little kid, I can't remember his title. But he's like a little teenager. And I love this too. You know, it's the Lego game, you gotta add some interest, and so just out of nowhere, everybody walks out, and then a bunch of guys run in, start attacking them. Another classic of the Lego game. You gotta just break everything you can see. If something can be smashed, it must be smashed. Such is the nature of Lego games. So, I do want to do Lego Batman as well. And I wouldn't mind returning to Lego Star Wars again. I'll probably do more, return to Lego Star Wars at some point, because Lego Batman and Lego Indiana Jones were two that I definitely played, but Lego Star Wars had my heart. My soul belonged to Star Wars at that age. I like this painted backdrop here, looking outside. It just looks like, you're looking at a big painted wall. Something kind of cool about that. I love skyboxes in video games. Sort of that shift from the immediate world around your character, where everything is, fully rendered, to the standards of the video game, but then off in the distance, where the player doesn't go, and it's just meant to depict the sort of, the horizon or whatever. I love to see how different games depict that. The different styles they use to depict that skybox and, distant terrain, mountains and hills and forests and whatever. The Halo skyboxes I always remember as being so beautiful. But yeah, just the shift in art style, I've always found kind of appealing. Yeah, a little stud hidden behind that glass. Oh, you know what? Willie can scream and break glass. I forgot about that. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Who needs a little extra cash? Can you see that painting? It's kind of dark. Alright, let's move on and see what the rest of Pankot Palace has to hold. What secrets will we uncover in its depths? The screaming can stun enemies. Gonna get this sword. The sword makes combat so easy. You just carve through people. I did find that the Star Wars games were partially my favorite just because of the tools at your disposal. Between having the Force and lightsabers and blasters being so common, they just felt, very dynamic, and depending on the level or what characters you had very different tools available to you. And the double jumps and stuff, so I always liked that about the Star Wars games in comparison to these other ones. But these other ones were great too. I just had, Star Wars was my obsession as a kid. That was my childlike love, franchise love, I mean, saying franchise, I don't even like that word in that context because that's sort of a business word, it's a franchise. Obviously when you're a kid, it's not a franchise, it's just a story. It's a world and imagination, and it's the games and the books and the movies and just kind of existing in that fantasy world and learning more about it and learning about the characters and the lore and the stories and the personalities and all that stuff. But yeah, these other LEGO games are great too in their own ways. We got True Adventure, nice. They tried to find unique elements of whatever franchise they were adapting. Oh, here we have a better view of that painting. I love the Lego ladies. Yeah, they would try to innovate with each game and, find unique features of the franchise that they were adapting in order to make it feel different from what came before. It's always funny to me in these games that you kind of auto-lock onto your teammates as much as, I can't get this stud. As much as you lock onto enemies, and so there's a lot of friendly fire in combat. You're trying to beat up your enemies, and then you just give Indiana Jones a whack on the head. So this is one of the things that they introduced in the Indiana Jones game was finding tools like this book. And with a book, you can come to these hieroglyph puzzles. And it's just a little memory game, so we just go ping, 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 ping. And it opens a secret door. A secret door. And we are attacked by more thuggy cultists. More thuggy cultists. I've said this before, but the platforming in the Indiana Jones games is... sorry, not Indiana Jones games, in the Lego games is a little whack. It, in the 3D space, it can be very hard to judge what direction you are going with what joystick inputs. And so, with the platforming, I find I'm often, trying to jump for a platform, and then I end up going a little too far downward, or a little too far upward, and then just plunge off into the depths and die. But that's kind of the case with all of them. I don't know if the recent ones feel a little better to play, but I've always had the experience of, it's usually fine, because they're not usually asking you to do tons of very precise platforming. You can get away with being a little sloppy. But in general, I always found the platforming in these games to be pretty tricky. These little hatches you can always go through with small characters. Kind of a thing in the Indiana... I keep saying Indiana Jones when I mean to say Lego. A thing in the Lego games, there are these certain interactable items or objects or environmental pieces that can be interacted with in the same way in each game, so regardless of franchise, I should say. So in Indiana Jones, even though it's not the same as the Star Wars game, if there is a hatch for a small character, you can go through it as Yoda, or you can go through it as Short Round. Obviously, something like the Force, you're not gonna have, you're not gonna have that appear. Okay, you can't take the torch across the whip swing. You're not gonna have that appear in... Sorry, I'm just... Okay, it keeps bounces too far. I'm trying to figure out if I need to... Can the NPCs just follow me now? They died as soon as I jumped out. Okay, come with me, and my torch is dead. Can I, an adult man, solve a puzzle designed for 10-year-olds? Let's find out. Nope, apparently I can't. Are you smarter than a 5th grader? Are you smarter than a 9-year-old playing the Lego games? Okay, Short Round, come with me. We can do this. There we go. There we go. One of the most difficult puzzles I've ever encountered in all my years of gaming. Oh no. Guys, there's a lawnmower outside. This is a disaster. Hopefully they stay away long enough for me to finish this video. But if they start approaching my window, either stop recording or just cut out a lot of the loudest parts. Let's have another sip of coffee while we ponder the mess we find ourselves in. Ah, that's good. That's good. So here, of course, is the heart of the Thuggy cult. They have a big portal to some demon world, or I don't know, it's the mouth of their god or something. I don't really, it's some crazy supernatural thing. And they lure people in, and in the real movie, people just die, I guess. But in this, their clothes just get melted off. So we gather up our studs. Over 300,000 studs. We are rolling in the studs, rolling in the studs. And we were only one treasure chest away from completing that level's elephant. I don't know what you'd call. What do you call the completed product of the mini kits? I mean, they're not mini kits in this one. The Temple of Kali, Kali, Kali Ma, Kali Ma. Of course, that's a very famous part of this movie. When he shoves his hand into the dude's chest and pulls out his still beating heart. Pretty gruesome. Yeah, I do really like this movie. There's a lot of fun parts in it. When they start, like, freeing all the kids in the mines, it's great. And all the fighting down in the mines, like, Indiana Jones has that big fight with the really big buff, like, slave guard. And, he ends up getting fed into like a rock crusher, I think. There's some brutal deaths in the Indiana Jones movies. They don't really show it, but they lead right up to it. Of course, there's the guy in Last Crusade by the plane propeller that Indiana is fighting, and then the plane is slowly turning, and the guy gets mulched by the propeller. That's a good one. These movies are really fun. I think of them in a similar vein to the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, where they're just like very high quality adventure movies, you know. I'm not like a cinema has to be Kino type of guy. Like, I love a fun movie, but there is a difference between a high quality fun movie and, you know, a low quality fun movie. And I think like these movies, The Pulp Adventure and Pirates of the Caribbean, they're examples of how you can have a movie that's just, I don't know, in some ways it's like, yeah, sure, it's not like art house cinema, but it does what it's trying to do so well, and I think you have to respect it for that. Man, I gotta watch those Pirates of the Caribbean movies again sometime. I love those things. Let me put it this way. There are some movies that you can watch as a kid and love, but then when you become an adult, you're like, yeah, maybe that's just for kids. Then there's some movies you can watch as a kid and love, and you get older and you're like, dang, this movie actually still slaps. We fight our way through the lava flows under Pankot Palace. Pankot Palace. This is a little bit like one of those platforming segments I was telling you about. Trying to judge angles and distances. Yep. I should have seen that one coming. Oh boy, that was a close one. Can I make this last? Okay, I guess part of it is you just have to wait for them to change their height in a way that gives you the most advantageous jump. Alright, stomach grumbling. That's what you get for having coffee without too much food. I did have some oatmeal for breakfast, but I gotta eat a lot. My furnace runs hot, you know. My stomach is just like a black hole. Just anything you pour in there just disappears. I do work out a lot, and so that's part of it, but it's kind of annoying having to eat so much all the time just to, I mean, honestly, and I've kind of eased off on, like, bulking. For a while I was bulking, for my working out, trying to gain more body mass. And then, a little while ago, I was like, you know what, I think the bulk is done. I think we're done with this. And, can I make this jump? Nope. Yeah. Alright, thankfully it respawned me up here, trying to jump for that hanging rope. That is like the worst kind of Lego platforming. Aiming for one needle-sized target in the 3D environment from the fixed camera angle. But yeah, so yeah, I was eating a lot of food recently for the bulk, and then I eased off that. Done with that, but honestly just eating to satiety now. Especially with being very physically active every day. It just takes a lot of calories. And then you gotta eat. And listen, I love eating as much as the next guy, okay? Food is amazing, but, you know, sometimes in the day, you just want to not be hungry anymore. You don't have to, sometimes eating can almost be a hassle. Can have a couple meals in the day that I'm passionate about, but by the time I'm cooking for like the 4th time in a day, I'm like, alright, I'm sick of this for the day. So here we have our little boss fight. Well, first we have to start rescuing Willie, I guess, so I just gotta navigate a few puzzles around here, to raise her cage up. Oh no, we're so close to the end of the level, but I can hear the lawnmower getting louder and just stay away for like 10 more minutes, please. I beg you. I beg you. Between the lawnmower and my stomach growling, which is louder, which is disrupting the video more. Yeah, so we can pull this thing out, and now we have a path. Now we have a path. And a short round can go up here. And am I going to embarrass myself with the jumping? Not yet. There we go. Look at me. I'm a master Lego jumper. Everything I said about it being hard to navigate Lego game platforming, it was all a lie. I'm a master at my craft, and I fell. Trying to get those studs, and I fell. That's okay. I'll get a second bite at the apple at the other lever. Do you have a favorite Indiana Jones movie? Mine is definitely Last Crusade. I think the dynamic between Indiana and his dad is really good, and it brings a lot of like depth and humanity to the character in a fun way, without the movie becoming sort of maudlin or it's still a pulp adventure movie, and the movie doesn't forget that, but it introduces Henry Jones Sr. And you get that kind of emotional heart to Indiana's character, and the development. You see sort of his history with his father, and their emotional blockages with each other and all that, and it still works. It doesn't lean too much into it in a way that diminishes the fundamental fun action of the film. Okay, so here's our boss fight. Here's our boss fight with this guy whose name I can't remember. He's like the dude that welcomes them to the palace, I believe. I don't remember his name. But you can take these thuggy hats, or like turbans, I guess, and use them to activate these statues. And they do something. Oh yeah, they conjure up lava from below to do damage to the boss. Kind of wrecked him. That was funny. His head exploding and the hair falling, like blowing off of it, and then falling back on his head, just covering his face. But it's that classic Lego humor, and that classic Lego game humor. So I think there is let's go back to Barnett College. Let's go back to college. Because this guy in the lawnmower, we've been lucky so far, but that will only last for so long. So, tell you what we're gonna do. There was a little puzzle in Indy's office before I started recording that I noticed, and I'm curious what it does. So we're going You have to collect all of these chests hidden around the room. Chatterlie, that was his name, Chatterlie. In his thuggy version. Short round, we need you. We need you to crawl through a little hole and go get another chest. Willie, we need the grasshopper legs of the female form to jump so high into the air and get another chest. Okay. Now what else do we need? We need somebody with a book. Here we go. Henry Jones. Henry Jones. Bing, bing, bing. Scarab. There we go. Yeah, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Temple of Doom, and the Last Crusade. It's a great trilogy of films. You know, I will say also, like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, you really only need to watch the first 3. And then, well, I don't know, I might be being unfair. I haven't seen all of the, after the first 3 Pirates movies, I only saw the one with Javier Bardem in it, which I thought was, you know, okay. I thought Javier did an amazing job, but... So what does this do? What's the point of this? It moved away the grates so you can drop into these pits. I don't know what that's about. Anybody who knows this game, what's that secret for? What is supposed to be achieved? Maybe you have to build all of these displays first. I don't know. Anyway, my stomach is rip-roaring with the rumbles, so I think we will wrap things up here and stop pushing our luck with the lawnmower. It's only a matter of time before it starts getting under my window, and then I know that will be too disruptive to record during, so I will bid you all a fond farewell, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, my friends, please take care of yourselves, and I will do the same. Until next time.